What's up, y'all? We back inside the Flip TV tips. So, I had a question in my DMs, and it said, "What is easier after you flip a house?" Well, pretty much fix up a house, renovate it, right? Is it easier to keep the house and rent it out versus sell the house to make money, right? So, it's kind of a two-part answer because it's not about what's easier; it's about what works better for your budget, right? As the buyer. So are you in a situation to where you got the house through a FHA 203K loan? Because if that's the situation, then you can't flip out of the house. You have to stay in the house for a certain time frame, which I believe is up to a year before you can sell the house off, if you get the house on that aspect, right? If you buy the house through hard money or through cash, then you can exit straight out of the deal. Now, if you're not over leveraged in the deal, meaning you need that cash that you invested for your down payment in the renovations, if you went over a bit and you had to put money into the renovations, or a lot of times you have to put up a small percentage to start the renovation until your drawers kick back in, meaning the lender gives you back the money. So when you get a renovation loan, you don't get the money up front, even though the hard money is financed 100% by the lender. You still have to put up the initial part. So say you're gonna do the demo, you're gonna fix the roof, and you're gonna do some framing, which is kind of some of the stuff that I do first. Also maybe the windows, right? You have to pay for that first part of that renovation, and then you call in for what's called a draw, and the lender gives you back that money, right? So a lot of times that money that you spend on the front end, you don't always get it back on the back end. Meaning if your renovation budget is $50,000, right? And the first part of the money is $15,000, let's say you spent. When you get to the last $15,000 draw, you should be able to get back that first $15,000 if you did your scope of work right. That's when you make a list of your renovations, and that's usually done by the contractor, right? So if you do that budget right, that scope of work budget right, you should be able to get that first $15,000 you got back on the end, right? On top of that money, you have to put up maybe 15 to 20% for the deposit, for the down payment for the house. And sometimes you'll even have to put up 3 to 6 months of the mortgage and prepay the mortgage for the house, right? So now, if you're looking at a decent house that's about $200,000-300,000, you may be talking $50,000 to $60,000 that you gotta put up, right? So if you don't necessarily need that money back on the back end, once the house is finished and you could go and just refinance and rent out the house, then that's on you. So it's a real complex answer, because even when you go to refinance the house on the back end, right? The refinance depends on your credit score, which a lot of people don't know as well, right? So if your credit score isn't above 700, then most of the time they aren't gonna try to give you a 70 to 75% ARV after repair value refinance on that house. Most people try to give you 60, 65%. Now with 60, 65%, that may be everything that you owe to the lender for the purchase and the renovation. So you aren't making any of your 60, 65,000 that you put up for the house back yet. So you wanna go into these deals kind of making sure that if your exit strategy is to refinance and get out of the property, that you have the decent credit score, or whoever is underneath with you on the deal have a good credit to where y'all can refinance at the maximum value, get the most back, and then hold the house to rent it out if your plan may be to rent it out. If you want to keep all of your options open, then definitely have that over 700 credit score. Make sure you're paying all your bills on time, because your credit is looked at as a means of refinancing. You know, don't let anybody tell you anything different. So a big thing with this is credit still when you're flipping houses. If your credit isn't that good, then more than likely you're gonna need to go sell that house to make the money back to just keep flipping, because it's really not in your best interest to refinance and keep moving because you aren't able to pull your money back out of the deal. You know, it's good when you can leave the money in the deal, because now, let's say you got a house that's worth 400,000, you got it for 200, you put 60,000 into it, so you all in for like 260. So your mortgage is gonna be pretty low, and if that's a multifamily, then you would be making a lot more month to month on the rental aspect. But let's think about the beginning again. You put 40 to 60,000 into this deal. So if you're able to kind of leave that money into a deal and keep moving on and keep being able to flip without having to need those funds, then yes, maybe refinancing is for you. But if you can't leave that money into the deal and you need that money to go on to flip another property, then you need to either figure out how to refinance for the most, and even if you aren't getting your 60, 65,000 total back out the deal, if you could get 30 to 40 at least out the deal, and then make the 20,000 back over the year as your tenants pay you on the property, right? So you could walk off with that 30 to 40 that you get out of the refinance. But when you refinance, you gotta know that now your mortgage isn't gonna be at, like, say, a 260 mortgage. Your mortgage is gonna be at the ARV of the house because you just refinanced, right? So you're gonna now have a $400,000 mortgage, and you're gonna have to pay all of those fees to refinance, like a whole nother closing again, you know? So it's a lot of things to think about as you're trying to exit a flip property versus like sell versus refinance and hold it. I always say if it's at least 2 to 3 units, then try to hold a property, refinance and keep moving so you build up your rental portfolio. But also, you kind of need the capital to get more property. So I tell people, flip your first 3 to 4 deals, and every 3 deals, you should be able to save enough or have enough that you can kind of part ways with to where you can now grab a rental property, you know? So flip 3, buy a rental, hold it, refinance it. Flip 3, buy a rental, you know? If you have a really pretty good contracting team, you can do 3 deals a year if you're able to kind of vet out really good deals. You know, you don't want to just jump into any 3 deals, but 3 deals should give you a significant amount of return to where you can then take that money and then buy 1 rental property and then be able to hold it, refinance, hold it, and rent it out. So you start to build up your rental portfolio as you're flipping. So it's just like both channels are kind of working at the same time. So I hope that answers your question. Stay tuned for more Inside the Flip tips.